Yes. So a very good afternoon to all the learners who are attending live.
Sharad, please unmute yourself.
Okay. Yeah. So a very good afternoon to all the learners who are attending this session, this live discussion of this second session on socio-cultural system with course code MSD013 of first grade diploma in sustainability science, and both the session of this online and audio. In last session, Dr. Dixon talked about the social system, and from that we have some basic concept about social system and sustainability point of view. Today, we are going to discuss on human ecology. The basic concept of human ecology, I'm sure you must have looked into our study material and you are able to understand what the explain over there in simple language. So in today's session, we are going to look from social system ecosystem interaction point of view. And I will touch upon this session from different perspectives in this way, that first we will try to understand the basic concept of human ecology, what we have already learned in our study material. Then we are trying to understand different case study, how this human ecology perspective needs to be looked from resource use and that consumption pattern, and even we'll try to understand the changed effect of this global pandemic, what is happening from the last 2 years from the lens of human ecology. This is what I want to share with our learners, we gathered some of the that publication and study done by different authors across the world. So, so when we're trying to understand human ecology, the word itself defines that this ecology of human interaction. And the basic, this term ecology, as we know, ecology is the study of interaction between nature, between living and non-living component in the environment. So when we talk about human ecology, it is about the interaction of human and system of human or social system with that of living and non-living component around us. So you will see from here in this diagram, which is also available in our study material, this diagram clearly explains what exactly human ecology is, right? So when we're trying to understand the human civilization from the beginning, and we know that human ecology is the study of interaction between nature, between human society and in the meantime, Rita, आप बीच में कुछ sometimes अपना आप mute हो रहा है. I don't know, is it because of me? I don't know. So when you look into the human growth of human civilization, beginning from Stone Age to different ages, which we explain in terms of using different metal, non-metallic that material. Then again, the culture we follow during our the growth of civilization, beginning from your hunter-gatherer to agricultural culture, then industrial culture. Now, through these processes, what we learn is that our interaction between our surrounding is because of the way we are adapting depending upon the situation. And this way of adaptation is still happening across the world, depending upon the situation we are having in terms of the ecological adaptation, means environmental adaptation because of different factors. It may be a meteorological factor, it may be even social that phenomenon happening. So So in fact, if you look into the human ecology, it's clearly shows that it is the way of adaptation. Human Homo sapiens means this species is following since its start of its civilization. And if you look from biological point of view, because of this adaptation process of the adaptation happening and human biology, and it brings into the humans that evolution in the society. Like, for example, if you look into what has happened when we were a hunter-gatherer, our physics system, our body structure is different from the next Stone Age to different ages. Then even from one culture, different cultural evolution, from agricultural that evolution, what kind of physics we are having, and from that industrial that revolution also. That's also depend on from one's part of the world to the other part of the country. So that is inherited from one generation to generation. The way of adaptation, the behavioral changes, and that is inherited from one generation to another. This is exactly the adaptation through this adaptation that human evolution is happening. Right. So you will see here in this photo, you will see differences in body size shapes. They reflected genetic adaptation to different climate. Here in Africans have long limbs that help them to dissipate heat, while the Arctic hunters they have bulky body that conserve the heat. Then accordingly, to adapt to your system, to adapt to your environment, our way of dwelling structure, our social structure is different, right? So let us try to look this concept of human ecology with that of ecosystem. We know that in human ecology, the environment surrounding what I'm talking about, I'm talking about the interaction of a human with that of living and non-living component. Those living and non-living component other than human, we take it as a ecosystem. And when you look into ecosystem, that can be looked in different shapes and sizes, right? So coming to, from the to the larger context of the planet as a whole in its ecosystem. Pond is also an ecosystem. Even in rainy season, a small that water body, temporary water body, that's also ecosystem, right? So, and if you look in the broader sense, human ecology is also part of this ecosystem. So, in that way, the human social system is interact with in different environment. See, if you look into how interaction of human and the social system with the ecosystem is happening here, you will see here in this diagram that the social system, if you look into here, the social system is everything about people, right? So about the people, about the population, and the psychology and social organization that's thrive in the environment. Means your psychology, your social organization, that is directly related to the environment, or environment influence to manage social environment. You just relook into, or revisit to the how our civilization started, you will find out easily, right? So the social system, if you look into that, it is a central concept that is we learn in human ecology, because these human activities that have an impact on ecosystem, they strongly influenced by the society in which the people, the humanity live. Right? And if you look into the value and knowledge system, right? That this value and knowledge, they together form our worldview as individual and as a society, right? This as individual and society, through these values and knowledge, it shapes the way that we process and interpret information and translate it into action, right? So here, technology play an important role, and which is defines is our repertoire of possible action. So when social organization and social institution, that specify socially acceptable behavior, shape the possibility into what we actually do. So like, in ecosystem, social system can be on different scale, from your family to your residential, or whatever, your village, then to community, into state, and it up to global context, right? The human society. So again, if you look into ecosystem perspective, we know that ecosystem provides services to this social system through, the movement or transfers of materials, energy, even information to the social system to meet the people needs. So these ecosystem services we know, and we also learn about ecosystem services in other courses like MSD 012. We have learned about the ecosystem services, right? That included, if you look into basic services, what we are getting from this living and non-living component of around us, that water we get, fuel for material for clothing, construction material, and recreational bulk. So this movement of materials are, uh, obviously it happened, for example, when we are trying to learn about food chain system, food web system. And again, when we are trying to look into energy flow, we learn that in the process, materials is also flowing one component to another component. Energy is also. Again, information is passes. So every material object, when it passes, it contains energy, and that we get it in different form, as a food, as a foils, and every object, whatever the transfer of that materials from one component to another, that contains information in the way it is structured, organized. So this information can move from your ecosystem to the social system. That is very independent from material. So for example, a hunter, he discovers his prey. When a farmer observes, and they observe what is happening in their agriculture field, that is also information. The way, the organisms, the way wheat is emerging. So that's that characteristic of that particular species that tells something, passing some information. For example, when we cross a road in a city, then we assess the way of that traffic, characteristic of traffic, before we cross to another road, right? Then when we are walking in the morning in the park or something, then that also we refresh ourselves in that time also. Some information we learned, okay, this is a place where we can refresh ourselves, recreate ourselves, right? This kind of information is provided by the ecosystem to society, from society to ecosystem. Because depending on the species, depending on the place, our behavior change, our characteristic change. In that same way, this material energy information move from social system to ecosystem. This is because of the consequences of human activity. Rita, you are regularly muting because maybe by mistake. Okay.
It is by mistake.
Yeah. So people affect ecosystem when we use the resources. So there's when we try to extract or utilize the water, what we do. That's why today we are facing the issues of water scarcity, right? We're having problem of fisheries. We're having problem of timber because of extraction of resources of timber, and more than what we have required, that deforestation happen. So in that way, in the process of utilizing the resources, we affect ecosystem. Again, when we started to use resources from the ecosystem, what we did, we give out that return, because material is transferred from one form to another. So we transfer as a waste to the ecosystem, byproduct of what we use, which, right? So people intentionally or unintentionally modify or reorganize the existing ecosystem, what we learn, or sometimes we recreate or create new ones to better serve our needs. that that here we need to relook into landscape ecology perspective. In landscape ecology, the nature, what landscape ecology is doing, right? They are sometimes they restructure or remodify the ecosystem. Whenever we do that, that we establish new settlement area in this modern world, we restructure the system, right? Then, when the process of utilizing the resources, we use machine or human labor, no, to modify or create ecosystem, and that process affect to the movement of materials within ourselves or outside the system, right? That affect to the natural flow of material and resources. So through that process also, we transfer our information from social system to the ecosystem. So whenever we try to modify in ecosystem, also they are trying to reorganize themselves or create an ecosystem among themselves. The point is that when you destruct a system, right, when destruct ecosystem, agricultural system, whatever the system, when you are trying to structure it, the nature itself also they try to remodify it. So, for example, the crop that a farmer plants, spacing of plants in the field, alteration of field's biological community by weeding and modification of soil chemistry, fertilization, all these are the process of restructure of the ecosystem, right? Then, when we look, 1 minute. Okay. Then that this relation between that ecosystem and the human system, then for the time you can look from social and cultural ecological point of view. When you talk about this way of understanding this social system, ecosystem, that can be looked at social ecology, means the study of man and nature from various aspects of society that deals with the roles and responsibility of various institutions, right? Various institutions, the social institution, and to understand man-environment relationship. So if you look into different publications by social ecologists, the famous historian and social ecologist of India, Ramchandra Guha, in 1994, he clearly identified 5 basic components, right? Those 5 basic components are, are ecological infrastructure that include, that is soil, water, forest, and so on, right? Then economic infrastructure, that is the forces of relation of production and trade. The social structure, right? Your family, kinship, caste, and community. And again, polity means relation of, power, law, and the state. And last, culture is very important. Earth, religion, ideology, right? So thus, if you look into what he explained, how we understand is the social ecology is the environmental oriented sociologist idea of the environment. It can be understood as the restoration of the relationship of your society environment along with the ecological aspect. So when we're trying to understand from this aspect, if you look into how Guha proposed, that you will find out he addresses 4 important issues in the study of the reciprocal relation between this ecological infrastructure and 4 other components. Again, he stresses on the ecological conflict, the use and abuses that society has inflicted upon by the class influences, institutional roles in the man-nature interaction and cultural influences, right? So when we are trying to understand the human ecology from social perspective point of view, you'll find out social ecology emphasizes on the need of harmonizing various social institutions to bring that man-nature interaction very meaningful. And if you exactly look into it, it's not exactly how ecology is I mean, ecologists are dealing with, right? So if you look into that, the two terms and its component, social ecology, human ecology, they are part and partial, right? Because if you look into it, their main objective is to understand the relationship of man and its environment, right? Uh, so, is my slide answer? Yeah. So let us try to explore more on understanding this concept by through different examples of social systems. We know that human ecology analyzes the consequences of human activities, and when we are trying to understand the social system causes of interaction, when it happens, it has a set of effects through the ecosystem, human, the social system, right? Let us take an example of fishing, right? In the fishing, you will see when fishing happen, what did happen when fishing is, when we follow this fishing, we will see that, so when fishing is able, here you will find out that the fishermen, they will harvest the fish, we use different technology, and this for our food, right? And in that process, our intention is to harvest that particular species of fish, right? But in the process, unintendedly, it affects to the other system. When you have an effect to the other system, what happens? It has impact to the integrity of that system. And if you look in a simple logic, it has effect to the food chain that exists into that ecosystem, right? Then again, if you come to the social system perspective, when fish is used as a food, right? Then when we have accepting the limit of that we what we can say what we imbalance that ecological that population, what will have affect, as I told you, the unintended effect happen to the other species also. Because of that, some information always miss, right? So then for example, our objective is to harvest particular species of fish. Because of that have been impact to the unintended impact to the other species. Say an example of it has impact on the birds community that feed on the fish. That particular fish we harvest, that has an impact on the dolphin and the seals. So when we take out that particular species from that system that have an impact to the other species, then the other species, the value of other species, if you look into the information they provided to the society, the social system, it will be missed out. That's why there comes conservation organization has to play an important role. Government has to play an important role. Even fishermen has to play an important role. In that way, in the process of that from the lens of human ecology, the use and abuse of resource pattern has a chain of effects. That is how we have to understand in this human ecology, right? Another example is cooking fuel and deforestation in India. How it is happening? See, most of deforestation is happen because of the extraction of timber, right? Commercial timber extraction. But if you look under perspective of the problem of deforestation, which has happened because of the extraction of the fuel purpose. Here you will find out that what have an impact on this social system and ecosystem when deforestation cooking fuel, and what kind of impacts are happening. If you look into social system, right, to collect that firewood from the forest, the number of children, they have to go, especially girl children, to collect the firewood, right? So that has an impact to the social system also. Some of the members of they will deprive from education also. So, so they use, and if you look into remote areas of India, forested India, across India, you will find out this particular social process, that is happening, right? Then, with the increase of human, one is the chain of impact. The another is, when we depend on these firewood for our cooking and for other different purposes, and human population has direct impact on that. With the increase of population, demand for that cooking fuel will be increases, right? That has a direct impact to the ecosystem. So, and because of that degradation of the forest, right, that has direct impact to the integrity and health of ecosystem over there. For example, if you look into that, especially in mountain area, what will happen? The deforestation, because of deforestation, it has direct impact to the fertility of agricultural land and the surrounding area. Then soil erosion is happening. Another is, if you look into using that cow dung as a cooking food, cow dung as cooking foil, what happened? The particular cow dung was supposed to be in as a manure, supposed to be used as manure. And when we burn for cooking fuel, then agricultural area which used to manure that area, that fertility will be decreased. So this sign of effect can be looked from the human ecology point of view. It is because of the human, because of Homo sapiens, we the Homo sapiens try to adapt to a system through that environment that has a chain of effect. Like, and then another example is, shifting agriculture, right? Another example of, when we discuss about that chain of that particular field, the another is recent here. I'm giving an example of biofuel generators, but here I would like to bring this example. Instead of biofuel, you just look into that our India's government initiative for that LPG, right? That providing LPG to each and every household. So when we provided such kind of opportunities, such kind of facility to those rural area, that again have a chain of positive impact. Whatever we have as a negative impact, when we are trying to understand when we use that fuel for cooking purposes, and dung cake, and that cow dung cake, it's cooking purposes. So those dung, the cow dung now, because of the that having your LPG gas connection for the purpose of your cooking, then that cow dung can be used for fertilizing your field. So this chain of effect needs to be understood properly from the lens of sustainability. Another example is shifting agriculture. Shifting agriculture, it follows a different cycle. The cycle, they cut the forest, right? First, they will cut the forest, they leave some particular species, then it will be freshly abandoned area, wait for 1 year, then that's called 1 year fallow, then 2nd year fallow, 3rd year fallow, 4 years fallow, 5 years fallow. Then cropping phase cycle started. This is exactly this cropping phase cycle that used to be 10 to 15 years. That was 50 years back. Nowadays, this has become to 5 years old. When it decreases, that cropping to abandon, abandonment, this cycle is decreases into 5 years, 5 years, then now what kind of ecological impact, not only social impact may have. For example, here in which month, which kind of activities they are, following, that is also here. So this has a number of chain of impact to the society, right? What we learn is that from these examples and from this concept of human ecology, we learn that adaptability criteria become absorbed, inherited, transferred to the respective societies of the world community, along with the process of development change to such an extent that it represents one of their own. So this abuse that people learn the process of adaptation from others, and we call it as cultural transmission, right? Now, what we can conclude is that this interactional process of man and its environment are through the process of adaptation, and the study of such kind of interactional pattern is called as human ecology. Let us look into, explore into how we can look at human environment system in this era of COVID-19. Here, you will see here what kind of lesson we can learn through this that unfortunate that pandemic. See, here you will see when lockdown happened in the last years, what impact we are getting in natural environment, so human society. If you look into that natural environment, when lockdown happened, or that whatever the activities we are directly doing towards the nature or nature is decreases. Up to some extent we can say stop. Because of that, what happened, that reduce in emission of in our environment, emission of pollution is reduces, then noise reduction is happened, then air water quality has improved, and biodiversity, you will see the flourish in biodiversity. But if you look into the human society point of view, public health risk is there, then economic recession is happening, food crisis, insecurity, then lower psychological resilience. What we have learned from the lens of human human ecology is this proof that our human activities affect the environment system. When our activities suddenly stop in these last 2 years because of lockdown, how much improvement we have seen, or the quality of environment, if we do not degrade the system and we limit our activities to the that ecological in ecosystem, then we will be able to conserve or preserve our system. Here, this clearly explains that what kind of natural environment is going through this that lockdown of COVID-19 in a positive way, for example, and what kind of effect we are having into human society because of the sudden surge of this COVID-19. Right? The social system, education system that affect, then research also up to some extent. Research, if you look into from medical science perspective, research is going very well, but for other components we are not able to do or to conduct research. And we can say some component of our research, some research areas were totally stopped in that time. Then unemployment, job insecurity is there because of the lockdown. Then global economic recession is happening, and different complex issues in social system is happening. But on the other side, because of the stuff, because of the temporary stop of our human activities, then there is that there is positive sign of improvement in the natural environment. As I told you, and we know that because of reduce of emission, or pollutant the nature we are able to get uh, good air, good water, good quality of air, good water, good quality of water, and a nice noise-free environment, right? So in this way, we can learn that how human environment interaction has to be understood. We need to learn this lesson from this last unfortunate that pandemic, global pandemic. Then this human ecology, again, we can look into from three subsystems. That as a student of sustainability science, we must try to analyze different issues from different angles. So from that perspective, what we can look in different logic is that this human ecology can be looked into in a broader sense into three important systems. Ecosystem, what we talk about, socio-cultural system, what we talk about, human biology point of view. Here, human biology point of view is, it is looking into individual level, right? So this system, no, when we talk about well-being, sustainability is for what? It is for our well-being. So when we are trying to study the issues of sustainability from the perspective of human ecology, we have to look in different we have to look into different components in terms of times and space, spatio-temporal approach, spatio-temporal point of view also, right? Again, this also shows about this how we have to understand this COVID-19 pandemic. Because of this COVID-19 pandemic, then we can look what kind of pathways was happen. I mean, what kind of pathways can they look by taking this global pandemic as a lesson in the future to have a sustainable policy and planning. One is there is changes in opportunity, right? For example, abundance of wildlife, amount of free time, means environment. And when you look into opportunity, right? The environment, the component of environment, the quality of environment improve, right? Then we have amount of free time. We're able to manage everything. I mean, and up to some extent, we are able to manage the time and to do multiple tasks. Changes in motive, that changes in capability. Unfortunately, mental and physical functional, our mental that capability, suddenly psychological impact comes, and we always say, what will happen? This affect, because of this global pandemic, this affect to the individual health, individual mental and physical health, right? Other is also the third part we can look is that changes in motivation, right? For example, if you look into, we learn that, okay, if we have limited the pressure to the nature, if we minimize some activities, then it will improve the quality of nature, which is directly related to your well-being. On the other hand, for example, there was a time we learned that even in case of Nipah virus also, okay, the carrier is bad. Carrier is some animal. In that, we have that fear of, interacting with such kind of reaching to such kind of animal or such kind of species. That fear also happen. So the point is that when something or other happen, there is changes in human nature interaction happen. And if you look before some pandemic happened, in the process of human civilization, different culture, from agriculture to industrialization, everything, all these human nature interaction it changes, and this is to adapt to the system. And exactly in this nation, this is what we learn from the lens of sustainability, from the lens of human ecology in this COVID-19 pandemic. That's all what I want to share with all of you. And now session is open for discussion. Rita, you can